Hello and welcome back to Galactic Reviews. I am Payson. To my left, or to the
You can
side of
just
me, is
say,
Andrew, and below me is Ethan and Zach. And today we are reviewing Tom and Jerry, the movie.
what else is there to say?
Yeah,
Besides, let's jump right into it.
Woo!
All right.
pretty much. So I'll give a brief synopsis about it. Tom and Jerry are running around New York City, fighting, and they run into somebody with problems, and girl tries to figure out said problems by scamming her way to the top, or at least the middle. And does it all go haywire? Does it not? It's Tom and Jerry. So
That is a very summarized summary.
yeah,
Wow.
pretty much. Pretty
I
much.
don't think there's any spoilers besides
No.
gender. I'll just say this. This was a Tom and Jerry movie that started at the very beginning without the two of them even knowing each other. So I want to say not really an original movie, but between the two characters, brand new. Um, just honestly, I think it was a pretty good Tom and Jerry movie.
Mm-hmm.
Let me think. A rating for this movie? I'm gonna
Please.
say like a 7.5.
Ethan, you go and go.
So, oh, my turn. Some of the skits that they used were some they put back, like from the old
It was a
stuff that they
throwback.
had. They used some of that in the movie.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so like they did that. I thought that was like very like shallow because everyone knows that that happened in the past, and this is just them just meeting. Although there was some of the stuff that I did like where they made it that way. Like what was it? They had it to where they made some new stuff up, and it was very graphical. I felt like the Tom scene where he was trying to get into Jerry's window. I thought that was a very funny scene. And I also felt like the movie was very good overall, but I feel like as like a 19-year-old human being going into this movie, it was okay. I mean, like it wasn't like the greatest, it wasn't the worst. I'm gonna give this one a 5. But if like the movie was like, if I was like younger, I feel like I would like this movie more because I feel like this was more appealing towards like a younger generation, not really knowing who Tom and Jerry was. So I'm giving that a 6 because it was more appealing to younger people.
So your rating is 6 and not 5?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
6 not a 5.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
Andrew.
I always have low expectations when a new kids movie comes out that's based off of a well-loved TV show. Not due to any other factor other than there's already this great love of this TV show or this series that's been around, and then they try to make it, I guess, relatable, or they try to make it to the new generation. So it's more kind of like a less that I'm expecting it to be bad and more that I'm like trying to see if it reaches up. It was much better than I expected it to be. It was definitely original, but still playing on some of the old gags. There's nostalgia in it without being completely nostalgia just for the sake of trying to pull in an older audience. I personally was never watched Tom and Jerry when I was a kid. I was just never a huge fan of it. But I never hated it. It was a fun movie. I think it was just an all-around enjoyable, entertaining, good kids movie. It didn't try to be too deep or be too funny. It was just a nice kids movie. So as far as just good kids movies goes, yeah, I'd give it like a 7.
I actually quite like this movie. I think I would have loved this movie as a kid because it was essentially two of my favorite cartoon characters come to life. It was good. There were some problems with it. Not gonna completely throw them out. But as far as a kids movie, it was amazingly well done. Some of the things I do have a problem with was some of the other characters that they brought in, like Spike and Butch, and then from like the old Tom and Jerry cartoon. They didn't quite sound the same as the old cartoon. And I know they could actually get people to sound like the old cartoon because they got that on the Tom and Jerry show on Boomerang. They actually have people that actually do really good impersonations of the older cartoon. So, but overall, it was still a good movie. I'd give it about a 7 out of 10. And we are now getting into spoiler territory, so you have
Alright.
been warned.
Well, before I start on the spoilers, um, I just want to say I do agree with you, Payson, with the voices for some of them were odd, like for Butch and Spike. Um,
Yeah,
but honestly, I don't know if they just felt like they didn't need to get someone similar, or if it's the origin story of not an origin story, but close enough to the very beginning of Tom and Jerry meeting that it
mhm.
doesn't really matter.
Well,
So I don't know. They got their personalities down for that. So that was fine.
yeah,
And
I will
then
agree. They nailed their personalities in the writing. It was just the
oh yeah, I
voice
think one of
acting
my
that threw me off.
one of my favorite things was when um just went blank on her name. Oh well. Um
Kayla, I think is her name. You're
what
talking
is
about the blonde, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Um
her name.
when she's like, I don't know why you two fight so much. It's as if you've been fighting for decades.
Yeah,
And I'm
that was
like,
more like
that was a pretty good throwback. Just but yeah, I think this movie was kind of a revival for Tom and Jerry. Other than that, I think the reason why they reused old traps and stuff was just for the nostalgia for the old viewers of it. Like where Tom's in his workspace
yeah.
doing a sketch for this huge, giant, elaborate contraption, which obviously fails. Honestly, he's just the Wile E. Coyote of this.
I also think it's because there's decades of original inventions and traps. And it's probably just hard to come up with new
That
ideas.
that it yeah.
Yeah, and most of the other old skits, like the way they would run around, when especially when Tom would like that scene where Tom was pulling on a rope that was attached to the Spike, and then Jerry gives him a bat, and he hits Spike like 15 times until he realizes that it's Spike that he's hitting.
I think
That's
that's
an old
how.
that is an old one.
Well, I
I
think
think
that's how they've always introduced Tom and Spike, or it's most of the time how they're introduced to each other is through Tom beating Spike
accidentally
half
beating
to
up
death.
Spike or accidentally getting in Spike's way or being more of a nuisance.
And then it's like, listen, pussycat, we can't do this.
They also
Yeah,
have to stay true to kind of like the emotions. Uh, Stay true to like what Tom and Jerry are. If you try to make a new, I guess, trap or gimmick, and
I know,
it's
I was.
from their normal genre of comedy,
Mm-hmm.
then it might just seem out of place.
Yeah. Honestly, Tom and Jerry has always been just a really fun show, just to, for me at least, to just sit down and watch every once in a while. Um, because it's just honestly, it's kind of become an icon for cartoons. When you say Tom and Jerry, most people know what you're referring to.
yeah,
So this movie had a lot of expectations on it, and I think they did really well with what they presented.
They were able to add a plot, like an, a 2 hour long movie plot to a normal kind of 20-minute, 10-minute kind of slapstick comedy
Yeah,
gag reel. and they were able to make it and have a good plot.
And yeah, the plot wasn't actually. The plot revolved around Tom and Jerry, not Tom and Jerry revolving around the plot.
I would, at some instances yes, in some instances no. There would, I would agree that at some points it would, but at some points it didn't.
Well, obviously, yeah.
Because I mean, the only time that it really did was when Jerry stole the ring. But other than that, it it just it varied from time to time. They felt more like every now and then they'd show up in the plot, like be of some importance. It was only during mainly the part of the ring, and then when they ended up messing up the wedding, that it was really that they were really a big part of it. And then when they ended up bringing it back, was that was more so them righting their wrong than them fixing the whole thing.
Hmm.
It was more like the plot was pushed on, furthered by their antics.
Yeah,
It wasn't like about Tom and Jerry, or it wasn't about the plot. It was kind of an intertwining, because the plot was happening and it wouldn't have gone forward if they had done some of the things they did.
and granted, it probably still would have messed up. The wedding probably still would have been poorly done. I think something would have messed up
No,
somewhere.
it messed up as soon as you invited elephants
Yeah, well, it
into
it
a
ended up
motel.
Tiger.
it ended up messing up even more when we were like thrown in the middle of that plot where the bride wasn't quite liking the groom for whatever reason. To me, that seemed out of the blue because they'd only dropped a line at one point, and then they just threw that in there like they had been having this argument for like weeks.
Well, no,
And
the thing was they weren't having an argument, and they brought that up much earlier on, that she just didn't know how to have a conversation with him anymore because he wanted to go above and beyond for everything, go big or go home, and she just had a hard time saying no.
so that was more her problem than his problem.
It was more
But then,
both, really. He
but then
just,
she got mad at him for not
especially
ever
with,
listening when she never said anything.
well, especially like, think you want to have a military grade drone take pictures at your wedding, but don't worry, they should have disabled the weapons. He has some
Yeah,
problems.
yeah. I'm not saying he doesn't have any problems, but it felt like we were just thrown into an argument with no like appropriate. You
Well,
get what I'm saying? Like there was no
no, I
appropriate.
understand, but then other people, since they were presented as a power couple or whatever, like everyone knows these two
Yeah,
people, so they have high expectations set upon them already.
yeah,
If they have an argument, then everyone will think that it's over, they're done. So for them to keep up their image, they have to keep up their image all the time. And she
yeah.
didn't want to ruin that as well. So honestly, it was just a whole lot of pressure mentally, and then having the wedding and him adding things constantly.
Yeah.
And she even said that he enjoys surprises. And his surprises were not small things. Like the tiger.
And the peacocks and the elephants and the
No, the
butterflies.
peacocks came in with the exotic bird package.
It was a surprise to her though. So
It was a surprise to him as well.
well, I don't know. It just felt like if they would have done the build up a little bit better, it probably would have looked a lot better or felt a lot more. The movie would have felt a little bit more fluid in that aspect.
One thing that I got confused about was she had Kayla wear a bridesmaid outfit, I believe.
It looked
But
like her wedding outfit.
I don't
You're
I don't
probably
know.
right. I don't know.
but then that was the only time you saw that. So was it
Yeah,
for her just to try it on to see if it looked good?
They were just having
Or
girls' time, probably.
yeah. They were probably.
probably.
She was probably trying to figure out what looks good for her wedding. I guess. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Usually you would
when
have
when brides go, they also pick out the bridesmaid dresses.
yeah, but usually you would choose like your bridesmaid to do that, not some random.
Maybe they were having trouble with them getting on the plane, Zach. They were very popular.
The
Yep,
theory
think
probably
about
is
this.
that the wedding was still several days away, and that I'm not gonna fly into a wedding a week ahead of time. I'll fly in a day before.
No, yeah, you have a point. But usually, I mean, you would do that not really at the same time as you buy the wedding dress,
Yeah,
but close to the same. Like when you go to get it refitted just to make sure it fits, you would probably be there also to do bridal. I don't know. I'm not a woman and I've never been married, so
yeah.
can't say anything for that. Um, but yeah, um, some of my best favorite parts was one had to be, yes, for Ethan, the window scene where Tom's trying to get into the window when watching Jerry. And
Yeah, couple Batman references.
there were quite a few
Yeah,
throughout the movie. Um, that was really fun. Another thing they pulled off well was the animal tornado.
yeah.
The a tornado that only sucks up animals.
Animated animals.
Well, those were the only animals.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So, is it just a world where there's humans, but every animal is animated?
I guess so. I mean, that's what they kind of seem to present.
It could have been they didn't want to do it the line. They didn't want to go the Lion King route. They still wanted to
Oh,
make it look like a cartoon.
okay.
You
They
don't think
Okay.
wanted it.
from Tom and
They
Jerry?
wanted. They wanted to make it. They wanted to keep it. What was it? What is it called? They wanted to pay respects to what came before it, and yet still make it look like it could be um in that it could
So like what
coexist
they
with
do with
this
like
live world.
Muppets and everything. Even though Muppets, I don't think they're more puppets. They're not even animated. But same difference.
Kind of like what they did with Space Jam.
Oh, yeah,
I think
that's
is more
a good one.
appropriate.
This movie obviously showed that when Tom and Jerry do work together, just like in every other movie that they are in, when they do
End up
work
having
together,
to work together. Yeah.
they happen to become like Batman and Robin, the dynamic duo.
They're like yin and yang. They
Very
are
much
polar
so.
opposites, but whenever they work together, they do some of the weirdest crap and somehow still pull it off.
Yes, they do that. Um, as far as comedy goes, this movie had a lot more than I expected. I
Yeah.
expected a lot
Well,
more
I mean,
slapstick.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
Michael Pena was pretty. He was some of the jokes that he
I was
did
about to say,
were
then again,
phenomenal.
the people they chose to act in this movie,
Yeah,
they chose great actors.
him and the what's it called, manager? I forget his name. Guy with the mustache. They did phenomenal. Um, especially when he's like, she thought the goldfish was the aquatic manager. Like just stuff like that. I started from the bottom and I worked my way all the way up to the middle. And you're not gonna take that away from me. That was the funniest line that I
Honestly,
heard.
they chose great actors. Their plot was really quite good. It could have been refined a bit more, but
Yeah,
overall,
some of
it got what it needed
yeah,
to be done.
yeah.
We still don't understand how she lost the ring because Jerry didn't steal it. He found it by chance.
I believe Jerry just went looking for stuff and found the ring. Like,
Yeah, he just found it by chance.
yeah,
So
And she said she put it down somewhere, but she never really said where. She just said she put it down somewhere. She didn't
Well,
know.
she couldn't remember. Yeah,
Yeah, well,
but I like how it's like this big old diamond.
yeah,
She doesn't want. She says, "Yeah, my husband would or fiance would be terrified if it got stolen," which makes sense. But every moment you see him, he's throwing away a lot of money.
yeah.
And I'm like, I get it. It's a diamond. It's worth a lot. But
I mean, I'm pretty sure if she would have just said she lost it, he would have just got her another one. It wasn't like I have a feeling he wouldn't have mind doing that
you're probably not.
He wouldn't have. No.
because I guess he would understand. He seemed like the kind of guy that would understand losing something
Yeah, but
or
when it's something that huge
yeah,
and important, I mean,
yeah. You would expect
then
them
then
to
you then uh you question things.
yeah. Another scene that was funny was when Michael Pena and Spike in the what was it called, the pedestrian crosswalk.
Hmm.
I love
Yeah, that
that
was
scene so
that
much.
was how many burritos did you eat? Stop honking! You know you're gonna make him self-conscious. Just stuff like that. Just the little humor. I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to culture appropriate for the people watching. That's just the way he sounded in my head. I don't have enough time to. I didn't have enough time to go rewatch the whole thing 50 different times to try to get his accent down. There's this one joke that I wanted to ask you guys. I don't know if it was a joke or if they were trying to virtue signal when they were like
Yeah, no, that was the
him
the owner.
or her, like the mouse when they were talking about the mouse, it, him, her, it, and then they were like,
We don't gender profile here.
it's gender fluid. Just I don't know if that was supposed to be a joke or if that was but I thought it was meant to be like a joke on like the culture that had
Well, they also made other jokes for culture. One about being how this generation is just expecting everything to be given to them,
Cancel culture.
yes, you
and
can't
that
go
we
making
don't
this
have
on
to.
Insta book face and
Insta book.
Insta book
Yeah.
face. You can go putting this
So
on
there were
Insta
there
book
were a lot
face.
of there was a lot of cultural references
Yeah,
made into jokes or just brought up in this movie that I
yeah.
was honestly a bit surprised about, especially in a Tom and Jerry movie,
Yeah, I think they did a good job um, trying to make this
pulling them
both
off.
entertaining for adults and kids
Well, that's
in
kind of
this
what you
in the
need to
same
do
limelight.
at this
Yeah,
end.
well,
With a child's movie, you have to make it entertaining enough for an adult to want to
so that
sit
way they
through and
don't go.
watch it,
Yeah, that way they don't get bored out of their mind while trying to watch
or
the whole.
refuse to ever watch this movie again with their
Yeah,
child.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Well, whatever. So, anything, Andrew, that you got to say, Ethan? Because I know you two have been quiet most of the time, and
Well,
I'm
Sorry,
sorry
Andrew,
about
I
that.
was
Andrew
listening to you
can't.
guys have a very good conversation about this movie.
Andrew doesn't have. He didn't hasn't watched much Tom and Jerry, so he can't do a lot of comparisons
Okay.
Yeah, but he can at
Well,
least say how much what he liked and what he didn't like, right?
My
about the
shtick
cinematography.
is about like going deep analysis into things with their writing and character motivation and character development and all that stuff. So I don't have much on the children's movie when it comes to just explaining.
okay,
There's not
Andrew,
Yeah,
much
I have
do
a
you,
character
question for you then.
analysis with
I
this.
think the doorman honestly is the most unappreciated character in this movie
I
because
loved him. He was awesome.
Kind of
he
looked away to
just
a lot of things.
yeah, he honestly did.
A
I
He's
really
the
doorman
wish they would
most
have
never
gotten what's his
tells.
name,
he is
Morgan
the
Freeman
most
to play him.
no. Uh but yeah, to me he was one of the most unappreciated characters in the film.
I can see that.
So
Love that
Um,
guy. He was so cool.
but the soundtrack that this movie had, it was I think it was pretty on
it,
point.
I mean at some points
Some
it
of them
was
I didn't
some
get
of
it
them it was yeah, some of them it
because
was kind of
I understand I'm not that into cultural
yeah.
stuff. So they kind of went over my head. Some of the songs did because I'm like, I don't know this one or it doesn't really fit for me. but I know it's for younger children, and they should probably get it more than I do. Now, since you brought it up with the underrated doorman, who is the Kronk?
I don't know.
Obviously, in my mind, it has to be what is her name? Rosie?
You mean Joy?
Joy. I was close. You knew who
The
I
person
meant.
that yeah, I knew who
Yeah.
you meant.
You knew who I meant.
Wait, what was this
Andrew,
movie?
that's
The one
the
that kept on popping up over their
yeah, the one
shoulder.
that kept on popping up out of
Oh,
nowhere. Yeah.
yes, 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 yes.
Oh, I know where that is. Where'd you come from?
Yes.
That
I,
one.
I swear she was raised by wolves.
Ah.
You can go out to the garden. You mean the
Central
park?
Park. Yeah, yeah, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Yeah, she was honestly a great comedy relief. They didn't really need a comedy relief,
Yeah,
but
because they already had so many different comedic minds right there that
but
could play off comedy really
adding
well.
adding her honestly just her character just made the movie meld so much better together. My
Yeah,
favorite part from her is probably, yeah, I lost my brother last week. Don't tell anyone about it. I was going everywhere. It's like,
she went on
where
that
are
long
you?
rant and then
Stop
nobody
hiding.
left.
Another great scene was in the beginning, very beginning, the first Batman reference, when Jerry's being shown this house,
Yeah, yeah,
and then the dude turns back around, and Jerry's gone,
yeah.
and he's like, "Did you just Batman me?"
Oh yeah, and another one. Yeah, and another one was
Sorry,
where
Alfred.
they were when they were underneath when that the real estate mouse and Jerry were underneath saying this could be a real mouse house. Is that copyrighted? And it's
I didn't get that one until you just said it.
Sorry, Alfred, I have to go.
like there's a whole bunch of stuff where they make fun of stuff that they go on the edge of
Then
copyrights.
again, I'm pretty sure they did a lot of Batman jokes in Tom and Jerry in the first place.
Yeah, well, they have the silhouette of Tom with the trash wings on the moon, resembling the Batman
Then
symbol.
again, Batman is such a very easy show just to make fun of or use it
Parody,
to make comedy.
parodies are okay under copyright, and I also think Warner Bros. Has some rights to Batman.
Yeah, Warner
Yeah,
Bros.
they do.
has rights to Batman.
Cool. So that's also
Um,
valid.
yeah. Also, one of the other funny ones was when they were talking about when they were watching that when Jerry was watching that old movie. He was like, "Give my creature life," and then they pan it over to
Oh,
Tom,
with
who looks like he's just like completely fried out of his mind trying to get in the room. That
honestly, that
was
Frankenstein
great.
movie has to be one of my favorite Frankenstein movies in the first place.
How
So
many
I
have you
really enjoyed
seen?
it. What?
It's
How many have you seen?
I've seen a few. There's quite a few Frankenstein movies.
okay. So, Andrew, you got anything else to say?
No, I really don't. I really don't. It was just
So
my
give me the character development between
Like,
I'm
did you
making
think
a
the
joke.
cinematography was good, like with
yeah.
the
No, I thought
animation and live action style?
one of my favorite things about it is that it didn't look awkward. It
Yeah.
wasn't 2D animation. This was 3D animation,
I
but it
think
didn't
the
look
only
out of
awkward
place.
part was when he was in the alleyway with the alley cats.
I could see that the lighting would make it stand out. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't it made some of the characters kind of look off, like overly animated. It
Yeah.
didn't really
It was
mold
the lighting.
together. Yeah, I know it was the lighting, it just didn't really work. Um, but
I really appreciated the animation because it was a step up from like Who Killed Roger Rabbit, and
Oh yeah, most definitely.
it was not straight 2D. It actually made it
Yeah,
still cartoon, but not just
yeah,
look bizarre. But
it,
without being like 3D animation as far as like Harry Potter goes. Um,
yeah.
yes.
it was a very nice middle ground. Um, I mean, there's I guess as far as character development, I mean,
Tom and Jerry's character,
They always develop.
Yeah,
rather quickly.
they went, instead of making them complete friends or complete enemies, in this one they kind of made them somewhat more of a frenemies kind of situation.
Well, it's always how it is.
Yeah,
They're more frenemies than anything.
yeah, but sometimes they usually lean either too far one way or too far, or lean more towards one or the other. This one kind of made it more of a middle ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Then I would say I don't know. You had Kayla who had great character development, but that's to be expected from one of the main characters.
Main character.
yeah,
Then you have the
The husband and wife,
yeah.
um, the assistant hiring man. I forget. I don't know what his
Yeah,
official.
Terrence.
his kind of spiraled out of control for a bit.
We just watched Ratatouille.
What?
This was Ratatouille.
How?
I can see how they made the references, but
not even
Jerry's a
like
mouse
like
and he's a rat.
the similarity in plot.
Oh, okay.
This new person that comes in without any experience is all of a sudden just really good with it. And it has some situation to do with this animal that's really not expected to should be in that sort of establishment.
Yes, but then you have to remember Tom and Jerry didn't really do much to help. They
No,
destroyed
that
a
was the
lot,
difference. That was the difference. It was the difference of
I
this
can see where you're getting this now. Yeah, I can
which
see where you're
my
getting
next
this.
trying to
question.
catch her this whole time because he can see she's like a fraud. After a certain point, then he gets fired and she gets elevated up, and then it all comes to light and it's all better at the end
Yeah.
because the animal ends up helping.
However, he got his job back. And
He didn't.
Terrence got his job back. The head
Did not.
chef in Ratatouille did not. So
Now, I will ask you this. Did you guys watch the final scene after the credits?
no, I didn't even know there was one.
What?
Maybe. I
What
might
was
have.
it?
Okay.
What was
It
it?
wasn't really that important. It was kind of funny. So after the second wedding, um, the um, the guy who got married, I just went blank on his name.
Ben,
Um,
I'm assuming.
yeah,
I think his name
he
is
went
Ben.
up. He went up to the managers for the hotel and everything, and he's like, "So I just looked at my bill and saw I got charged for 2 weddings. Is that correct?" And they're like, "Yeah, well, we just ran some numbers and yeah." And they walked off, and he just looked at it and like, "Oh."
All right. Anything else? Any closing statements?
The main girl sucked.
I thought some of her line delivery could have been better, but I don't know if that was her.
I think
Okay,
that was
Andrew,
think
you
that
are
was-
holding. Andrew, you are holding your lip. What are you?
Oh, I just like her.
Okay.
That's just personal preference. I just like her.
She,
Okay.
she's a good actress.
I'm not saying she's horrible. I'm just saying like
No,
some
I
of the
think- I
some
don't
of the
know- I
lines.
think that was-
some of the lines were stale.
I think those lines were written.
Yeah, I think some of her
for-
lines were written stale.
Done better, and I
I
think
think it was yes.
part of the
But I
reason
think-
is that it's just a kids movie, and
Yeah.
in my head, these very kind of like kids movies that are marketed towards the very young demographic. Like if you look at Soul, which was not towards like 8-year-olds, this was towards 8-year-olds. Soul was like 13-year-olds, I'd say. 8-year-olds still really can't grasp super complicated emotions and concepts.
I was about to say she was very much.
Playing into this is a kids movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she acted like a lot of her lines were delivered as a child would, or someone young and inexperienced in the world.
Also from
Yeah.
just imagination, like I can see how it would be hard to talk to like the air.
All right. Thank you again, everyone, for tuning into Galactic Reviews this week as we finished up our review of Tom and Jerry. Next week, we'll be jumping into the news. I forgot what movie we were doing.
Zack Snyder's Justice League. Zack.
I almost said Snyder's Zack Cut. And that's why I
Snyder's
had to
Zack
stop.
Cut.
That is staying in. All right.
I love the dire snack cut.
Yes, I made a mistake. Then I'm
Zack
losing my
Snyder's cut.
coworker.
Justice League.
Justice Snyder cut. Got it.
Yeah.
The Age of Freedom. All right.
All right. If you made it this
Oh,
far,
okay.
thank you very much. Make sure to like and subscribe. Be doing us a favor. And until next time, we'll see you all later.